quite there? Okay.
Show whether you were in it or a member of the audience. You did a great job. For some reason, good things always seem to come in groups, and we're very lucky. We've got a gentleman by the name of David Williamson here today to share with you a little bit about life and about how to solve problems in life. So make sure you give him your utmost attention, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Triplett. Nice to have you with us. We're going to roll around up to 3 o'clock. I'm not from Fairfield, but I was born fairly close by. I was born in Keokuk, Iowa. I grew up in Iowa, went to 7 different schools before I graduated from high school. Now, growing up in Iowa, I had no idea when I was in 8th grade what business I'd be in today. Anybody got any guess? What business do you think I'm in? What do you think I do? Yeah? I am. I'm a sculptor and a poet. But when I was your age, although I was in business, I did not know I was going to become a sculptor and a poet. I didn't have any models. Growing up in Iowa back then, art was something you did on Fridays if you'd been good all week. So I thought artists came from France. In the 7 schools I went to, we didn't have an art room or an art teacher in any of the schools I went to. For 2 years, my 1st and 2nd grade years, I lived over in Nebraska. What river do you cross to go from Iowa into Nebraska? Missouri. The Missouri, exactly. And you cross the Missouri River, you get into Tekamah, Nebraska. That's where I was in 1st and 2nd grade. And again, in Nebraska, art was something you did on Fridays if you'd been good all week. I had a powerful experience with drawing materials, though, when I was in 2nd grade. I'd forgotten about it until I was, let's see, about 3 years ago, doing blacksmithing with people your age. Now, blacksmithing's where I take my forge, that's a real hot fire, and we get metal red hot, and then I was in a park doing blacksmithing with people your age, hammering metal, and then you take the project home with you. So as junior high school and 8th grade middle school students were hammering away, they started bending and twisting the metal, and they took their project home, and it was ready for the next group of students. And a woman came up out of the crowd and said, "Excuse me, are you David Williamson, who used to live in Tekamah, Nebraska?" I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "Well, I'm Miss Schuler. I was your 2nd grade teacher." I thought, whoa. For her to remember me after all these years, I thought, maybe I did a little drawing or something. She remembered me. She said, "You know, David, you were the only 2nd grader I ever had in all my years of teaching who ever managed to get a pencil eraser stuck up their nose." So in 2nd grade, I made a lot of mistakes. In 8th grade, I made a lot of mistakes. And by the time I was in high school, I made a lot of mistakes. And I'm 50 today, and I continue to make mistakes. When they asked Sam Walton, that guy who created Walmart, "How did you do it? How did you create this company?" He said, "If I said it once, I said it 10,000 times." And he said this in his autobiography: "Do it, try it, fix it." Constantly experimenting. So there's going to be some mistakes that you'll make along the way. When I was in 8th grade, I was running my first business. Anybody got a guess as to what my first business was? Anybody have any ideas? What do you think my first business was? What do you think? Yes, back there in the red shirt.
Pencil eraser removal.
Pencil and eraser removal. Good guess. Nope. Yeah? Paperboy. Good guess. Nope. Although I had a bag and I carried things that I distributed. Hints here. Yes? I heard it. Who said it? What? Yes, I was a professional Santa Claus. Yeah. Now I'm 50 years old, so when I was your age, about 1960, what do you suppose a professional Santa Claus, or let's put it this way, what do you think I charged as a professional Santa Claus per hour? Yes, 2 cents an hour. Any other guesses? Yes, what do you think? She right here in the glasses, what do you think? $1 an hour. Good guess. No. Yes, right here in the white t-shirt. 20 cents an hour. No. $60 an hour. Now how does that happen? Watch. It takes 12 minutes to visit a family in their home with my Santa Claus outfit on. So I could do about 4 of those an hour. And what did I charge to visit the family? $15. 4 times 15 is? May want to pay attention. You may find this real valuable. You may find that running your own business is something you'd like to do. By the time I was your age, I had run the Santa Claus business and was getting ready to run my second business. When I was in high school, I ran a rock and roll band. And our bass guitar player, get this, was in 8th grade. The bass guitar player was 12 years old in 8th grade when he started playing with us. I want you to hear him today. He's also someone who grew up in Iowa. He's a concert classical guitarist in Europe. This is a recording made in Germany. Now, when he was your age, he was playing rock and roll with me. Now he sounds like that. Every time he made a fee for his performance, he sent the money to the bank. There, of course, it grew, what's that word? I word, interest. Then once he had enough money, he sent the money back to Iowa, and he bought a home. And he now owns about 23 homes in central Iowa and rents them out. He also knows how to run a business. In fact, all 4 of us who are in that rock and roll band today are self-employed business people. Rock and roll is a good place to begin. It opens lots of doors, but so does school. And one of the reasons I come back into Iowa schools to share with students what it's like to run your own business, especially a creative business like being a poet and a sculptor, is that students ask me the questions I forgot to ask myself. This is me when I was in 2nd grade. I was showing this photograph to a group of students in Clinton, Iowa. They were in 1st grade. 1st graders are some of my toughest customers. The first question was, how come you shaved your beard in that picture? I said, no, that's when I was little. Now I'm big. See, 1st graders, they're always questioning all the answers. And that's a very important survival skill in business, learning to question all the answers. For example, when it came time to build a house, I questioned a few of the answers. What's it cost to build a house? What do you think? Yes? Wow, yeah. What do you think? 50,000? What do you think? 150,000? Yeah? 100,000? Okay, my house costs $4,500. It's made of trash. Our house is made out of the things our neighbors threw away. For example, our kitchen floor used to be a basketball court. From a school gymnasium, I tore down the building. Our windows in our house, many of them came from old churches that were being torn down. We have stained glass windows in our house. Our spiral staircase going up the stairs to the 2nd floor used to be steel planter wheels off of old steel wheels that you planted corn with. Our front porch windows used to be parts of stoves. Our kitchen booth used to be a bed. They're busy tearing down the building already. Our front porch windows used to be parts of stoves. Our kitchen booth used to be a bed. And our bed used to be a front porch railing. Our paper towel holder used to be a croquet set. Our house is called Rancho Weirdo. And it's true in the movie Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Last summer, in the month of June, in a 2-week period, we had over 150 people come through our house. And we're not even open to the public. We don't sell tickets. We're not a museum. But people come to see our house. We've had people drive in and ask, what was this place? We've had people drive in and ask, what is this place? We've had people drive in and ask, what's this place going to be? And the wildest one is a couple years ago, I had a guy drive in, roll down his window, and he asked, you got hookups? I said, what? He said, you got hookups. I said, this is my house. I live here. He said, oh, I thought it was a campground. So I question all the answers too. And as I was tearing down my old buildings, getting ready to build my house, this came off a door. This is a door hinge. Now you all answered the same. And when you all answer the same, you're going to find out in a few moments we're doing this. That's what we're doing when everyone comes to the same conclusion. Now, on the other hand, I question all the answers. Sure, it's a door hinge, but what I want to know is, what products could you turn it into? Now, I know it's kind of small. I found this one. I made this one. So we can put the little one away, and we'll get out the real iron butterfly. Because one of the things, of course, it turns into is a butterfly. Now, what other products can you invent with it? What other businesses could you get ideas for? You got to look at it in many different ways. What else could you do with it? Look at there. 3 legs, keyboard, it's a baby grand piano. What else could it become? What other inventions?
Put it on a very big door.
Enormous door. Don't show me the chickens that come out of this chicken house. You know, don't want to see them. Right. It's a shelf. Mm-hmm. Yes. Say it again. Yes, fantastic. Give me another one. A swing. It could be the swing set, or it could be the swing seat, or other things that fly. Now here, air.
Looks like roller skates.
Oh, roller skates. Exactly. Roller skates, or you put blades on them. You got ice skates, and then I was thinking about a pair of high tops, basketball shoes, Air Jordans or something. Huh? How about this? A pair of boots worn by this guy. Ho ho. Santa's sleigh. He lands on your roof, slides down your chimney into the fireplace where you hang your... At Christmas time, there's a thing over in the corner like this with a green thing in it. Tree stand, which you got by taking your heavy pair of boots and going off into the woods with a sharp one of these and a wooden handle. Axe, chop down your Christmas, which leaves the tree what on the ground? Stump. Bring it back into your house where you get a cardboard box full of silver and an angel at the top. See, look at all those businesses. Look at all those products. Look at all those ideas. They're all just stories waiting to be told. Who's got another story waiting to be told? Yes?
I was thinking of another thing.
Yeah, another product. What can you turn it into?
Sort of weapon.
Some sort of weapon. Yeah, bet. Give me some more. What else? How about this? Yes, she's got it. What? Bookends, exactly, or that thing you put the dictionary in. Right? New ideas always seem weird at first. What would you have invented if you'd have taken... Now, Marjory Stewart Joyner was the woman in Chicago who did this. A black woman in Chicago, 1927, she took her toaster and her hairbrush and put them together. What would you have invented? The curling iron, exactly. You bet. So, but can you imagine the neighbors? What's Marjorie doing over there with the hairbrush and the toaster? You know, it looks a little weird. New ideas always seem weird at first. Yes? Well, basically, it was a tool, or the function of the tool was to go through the hair and then heat the hair, and the idea was to straighten black women's hair. Okay? So that the way that a heating element goes through a curling iron is basically the idea. You take the heating element and run it through the brush, and the idea was to straighten black women's hair. Now today, the product took off because all of a sudden white women want to curl their hair. Different beauty myths go on there. Give me some more products. Or tail of a whale. Go the other way now, in the ocean with a string on the end.
Stingray.
Stingray. How about this one? Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. Boom, 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 boom. Yes. Shark. You bet. How about this one? North Atlantic. Titanic. You bet. See, all these crazy ideas. Give me some other crazy stories here. Who's got some more stories? I know. Here. Hang on. Here's a string. Got it? Okay. Everybody blow. Kite. Exactly. Kite. Kite. You see, when you were looking straight at it, you didn't see all those stories. They're all stories waiting to be told. Basic lesson in business is the straight line path usually doesn't exist for successful businesses. You kind of wander all over the place. Watch. If you were going to be on a world championship basketball team, which of these color balls would you want to have?
The yellow one. The black and red.
Black and red, because that's the Chicago Bulls. All right. Now, do you play basketball?
No.
Do you play basketball?
No.
Do you play basketball? Yes. Step right up. Now, the free throw line is going to be back there a ways on that aluminum thing. There you go. That's good. Now, you're right at the crossroads when you're at middle school. You're looking back, in elementary school there was lots of fantasy, and in high school there's reality. You got to be facts driven in high school. Now, one of the little fantasies that goes on in elementary school, and it's kind of handy for elementary school, is that we tell people to go from point A to point B in a special way. And I bet you can remember it. They'll say, we're going from third grade to the lunchroom, everybody... Run. No, it wasn't run. It was what? Line up. Yeah, right. Everybody line up in a straight line. Now watch. Let's apply that concept to the real world. Let's take, first of all, the yellow and pink ball, or yellow and red ball. Now, this time, what is your name? What? Carol. Okay, now, I want you to take that ball, and we're going to take the third grade approach. In a straight line. Nobody gets out of line. I want you to go straight from right there to the hoop. Now, the target is a circle. Can she see the whole target? No. That's like you in middle school. You can't see exactly where you're going. No problem. Let's see what happens if we try to insist on going there in a straight line. Take the ball and shoot it as straight as you can right at this hoop, as hard as you can. Straight line didn't work. Now we're going to take a curved line. This is where you learn to shoot the jump shot and the free throw. That's where your elbow comes in. If you're in basketball, you've heard it. Elbow comes in. Left hand's frozen. Ball up on the fingertips. Wave the shot off. Now you're trying to put, what's the A word? Arch into the shot. Because you'll have a better probability of hitting the target, which is this big, if you go in something other than a straight line. So now, this time, nice and soft, big arch, right through the hole. What's Michael Jordan make per point? $12,380 per point. Do you think Michael Jordan's going to insist on going in a straight line from the free throw line to the hoop? No, because to be globally competitive, you have to understand that the path is not always a straight line. Let's take a look now at another example. We're going to say that's the Earth. And I just flew back from San Diego, California to Chicago. I was working with some businesses in San Diego. Here's the plane, and it's on the beach near San Diego. Now, what happens if I get in that airplane and the pilot says we're going straight to Chicago? Now, we live on a ball. What's going to happen? Yes, you're going to crash. That's right. Because if we go straight through, we hit land. That living on a ball, we have to realize that we can't always go in a straight path. It's true for basketball. It's true for airlines. Here's a cheap globe. Now, that's just in case you didn't get that two-dimensional model. I was in Des Moines, Iowa, working with some 8th graders the other day, and I held up a quarter. And I said, if we make a picture of a quarter, that's two-dimensional, vertical and horizontal. But I said, if we hold up a real quarter, that's vertical, horizontal, and depth. That's 3D. So the next day I reviewed that. And I said, okay, class, now if I draw a picture of a quarter, that's 2D, vertical and horizontal. But if I hold up a real quarter, that's 3D. Why is that? Kid raised his hand. He said, because George Washington's dead. I said, what? He said, because George Washington's dead. I said, what do you mean? He said, vertical, horizontal, and depth. I said, no, depth. He went, oh, never mind. See, you can be just a little bit off and not make your destination. You better hope that the airline pilot who flies you from San Diego to Chicago doesn't think that the level of science that the rest of the world operates with is a straight line, because we don't live on a plate, we live on a planet. So let's fly straight to Chicago. You ready? Fasten your seatbelts. Yes. Now that's what happens every time you insist on a straight line solution in business usually, is that we sometimes find that it kind of blows up in our faces. And that's because there's two kinds of problems in business. There's this kind of problem, and there's this kind of problem. So let's figure out, exactly. So let's figure out, hey, it's like a hat from what is that story? Wizard of Oz, and you, it's like the Tin Man's hat, and you click your heels together and you say there's... Exactly. And I couldn't have said it better myself, because what I want to make sure you know how to do is to run a business in your hometown. In Iowa, we do a great job of producing new young employees. Iowa kids can grow up and go work anywhere, and usually go do. What they don't do is put together a business in your hometown. And we need to make sure you understand how to do that, how to run a business in your hometown. So let's figure out how a triangle talks. Now, which way would you turn this funnel, like this or like this, to get all of the oil or sand to go to the same spot? Show me with your fingers. Yeah, because what would happen if you turned it like this? It would go make a mess all over the place. Let's pour out a problem. Now immediately I heard all of the same answer. Everyone's going 7, 7, 7. Exactly. Because it's one of these. Everybody has to have the same answer. In fact, if I was in first grade and I said 3 plus 4, and then I gave a new answer, nine. And if you're the teacher and you've got the red pen or the pencil, what do you put on my paper to show that it's wrong? Yes, the check mark, or the red funnel. The first time you saw a red funnel at school was the check mark. And that was a teacher saying, for this problem, it's one of these. Everybody has to have the same answer. Now, what class is it where you work with numbers and everybody has to have the same answer? All right. So there are going to be times when you turn it like this, and we find that that funnel is hidden right there in the word where you practice it. Math. It's one of these. Everybody has to have the same answer. It's true even for adults. When you're driving down the road and there's room for 5 cars, you won't see this. Room for 3 cars, you won't see this. But when you're driving down the road and there's room for only 1 car, even though you're in 8th grade, you know what it means. It's the red funnel. It means yield. And there are times when a teacher with a check mark is asking you to yield to their answer. And that's okay as long as the problem's one of these. Even geese know how to do this. As you know, if they fly, what shape do they fly in? They do this as well when they're all going to the same spot. And when they do this and they all fly to the same spot, they fly in a formation. And any group of ideas, or even airplanes that does this, we call it flying in formation, or you just heard the word. Information. Information's one of these. And you just gave me information about the hinge when you all gave me the same answer. You said hinge. And then you all said funnel. And when you're doing that, that's information. Now in math, 2 people sitting side by side have to have the same answer or somebody's wrong, but what do you call it in art? If 2 people sitting side by side do exactly the same drawing. That's copying, you bet. So there's going to be times where instead of doing this, we do this. Everybody goes in a different direction. That's why you see the funnel upside down in the word art. Math, art, same answers, different answers. But we also use it in the real world. If someone's driving at harvest time at a different speed than you are, or if someone's using high energy that's different than you've got, radioactivity, or if you've got an electrical appliance, and if you do something in a different way, you might get hurt. Boom, there it is. Or if you're trying to see something old in a new way, like recycling, there it is again. This is a sign for seeing old things in new ways. What toy do you have at home that you had when you were really little? It was 1 minute it was a truck, and the next minute it became something different like a robot. Transformers. And this is information, and this is transformation. Exactly. And that's what we were doing to the hinge. We were transforming it into new products, or new ways of solving a problem, or new ways of looking at the problem. You can see them as the vital signs when you're in middle school as math and art. And you're right there in the crossroads right now. This and this are part of that X. Understanding that right now you're getting ready to move into the real world of adulthood. And you're going to be running your own business, and there'll also be times in your personal life where you'll need to know the difference between this and this. These are my mother's shoes. I have all of my mother's shoes now except 2. Why do you think I have all of her shoes except 2? What happened to her? Yes, my mother recently died. If I look at my mother's shoes like this, they'll always just be shoes. But if I see that what I don't know about them is more important than what I do know about them, then I'm not here, I'm here. And I have to transform them. So I take the shoes, and for example, although I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, I did know how I was going to do it. How I was going to do it was to take her shoes and cut them in half. And then take the toes and cut them in half. And I was chopping up my mother's shoes. Now if somebody came up to me at that moment and said, "What are you doing?" I would have replied confidently, "I don't know." Because it wasn't one of these, it was one of these, where all of a sudden what I don't know is more important than what I do know, and I have to have a strategy. Here you need a plan. Here you need a strategy. And I had to discover. In school, you cover material. And then there are going to be times when instead of covering it, you disk that process or put it down and then you discover. Right. Discover. From cover to discover. And there was a story waiting to be told in her shoes. So here was the story. I'm casting them in bronze, but I'm going to show you now the actual shoes with sculptural wax. Her shoes become the head of a deer. The heel is the nose, and the ears are the toes. Now this deer head needs a body. Now the deer body needs legs. This is my father's shovel handle cut in half. Cast 4 times, it makes legs. It makes a sculpture that says what I wanted to say to my mother. It's a visual pun. What's it saying, huh? Mother, dear. This is a powerful tool. I want to make sure that you know it exists and also how to make it happen. Because living on a ball, if you're going the short distance, you can see where you're going. But if you're going the long distance living on a ball, can you see where you're going? Not necessarily. 3 out of 4 of the kids who are in kindergarten today are going to grow up and work at jobs that don't even exist today. So preparing each of you for the unknown is what this is all about. The Iowa Tests of Basic Skills are going to measure how well we gave you this. The Iowa economy of the next 50 years will measure how well we gave you this. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you, I grew this. I grew 7 pumpkins, and this is one of them. There are 4 others that are this size. I did not plant them, though. These little pumpkins grew in our front yard in an area of our yard that we don't mow. It's next to the area where we keep our compost pile. Last year, after Thanksgiving or Halloween, we pitched the pumpkin into the compost pile. That's where it becomes earth again. Sometime before last winter, a mammal got in there, some little animal, and took all the seeds out of the pumpkin and buried in tunnels throughout our front yard little pieces or packets of seeds. It ate some of the seeds, but then some of them that it didn't eat this June came out of the grass. And all of a sudden, in the area of our yard where we didn't mow, there were big leaves growing. It looked like rhubarb. But we hadn't ever planted rhubarb there, and my wife said, "What's growing in the front yard?" Well, we went down to take a look, and they were big pumpkin leaves. And then soon, the vines spread across the yard in the front where we don't mow, and in fact, crawled up into a 20-foot evergreen tree and went all throughout the tree. It became a pumpkin tree. Because what happened then throughout the summer, all the blossoms from the pumpkins, which are orange colored and have 5 points on them like little stars, the blossoms covered the ground and also covered the tree every morning with little gold star shapes. And then an interesting thing happened. 5 of the blossoms took to becoming a pumpkin on the ground, and each pumpkin is this size on the ground. But there are 2 other pumpkins, and they became pumpkins of a different size because those pumpkins are now up in the limbs of the evergreen tree. The tree extended its limbs or its arms and held that little pumpkin so that it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And those 2 pumpkins in the pumpkin tree are not this size. They're this size. And pumpkins are just like people. If you extend your limbs or your arms, they will grow if given a chance to grow. And that's where we are right now here at middle school, is that the school district and the staff are extending their arms to you and providing you a place to come up and out of the street and grow in fabulous ways here in this middle school. And what we want you eventually to do is to go on out there and become successful business people in your community. And there'll be other times, rather than just in business, where you need to know the difference between this and this. When I was 19, during the fall harvest time, my dad died. Have you ever had a friend move away and after a while you can't remember what they look like? That's what it's like when somebody dies. After a while you can't remember exactly what they look like. Although I remember this, my dad was a bald guy. No hair. So anytime I see something smooth and round, I like it. It reminds me of my dad's head. Like bowling balls, they're good. And basketballs, they're good. And soccer balls, they're good. And gumball machines, and even pumpkins. But there's something that comes out in the night sky. It's smooth, round, and cream-colored. It's the... Now you all answer the same. Were you doing this or this? Yes. Now we're going to go beyond information. This is learning. This is thinking. This is looking, this is seeing. This is listening, this is hearing. This is learning to talk. This is learning to say something new. And here's what I learned to say about the moon. I love the moon because it's bald, like my father's head, with a face I can't quite make out through the mist that surrounds the dead. After 14 years, I can't hear his voice as clearly as I'd wish, or smell his pipe and viceroy smoke, or measure his clenched fist against the size that mine's become, now that I'm a man. But one thing I can't forget is how he'd take his hand and running atop that shining skull claim, "It's just less hair to comb." I'd counter he had more face to wash as he polished on his dome. I love the moon because it's bald, like my father's head. And as long as the one shines tonight, the other isn't dead. This is a powerful tool, and there are going to be times in your life when you leave middle school where you'll want to bring parts of the past to the present, and you do this. But there'll be other times where you need to bring the future to the present, and that's where you do this, where you become a discoverer, an inventor, an entrepreneur, someone who runs her own business. Businesses owned by women in the United States currently employ more U.S. workers than the Fortune 500 companies put together. 90% of the businesses in the United States have less than 10 employees. You could run a business in your hometown. I know I did, and that's because I felt that everything was a story waiting to be told. In the last 3 minutes before we go, I want you to see some stories that were waiting to be told. Well, I know they're here. Here we go. This garage is where Walt and Roy Disney started Disney Productions. This looks like a garage in any hometown, in any community in Iowa. This building is where Matt Matson and Elliot Handler put together Matt and Elliot Mattel. This is where the first Barbie dolls were first made by Mattel Plastics. This is a guy whose name is Steve, who with his friend Woz put the bite in your apple. This is the guy who invented Apple computers. And there's the garage where it began. His business started in a garage. Computers need a printer. This is where Hewlett-Packard, the printmaking company, the people who do the printers, they started in this garage. Reader's Digest sells 38 million copies a month. That's where it began, in a garage. So you see, even though you're in 8th grade, there are buildings like this in your town that could be stories waiting to be told. A business down on the corner with your name on it. And of course, how you tell your story is very important. For example, FedEx is a ground air transportation, and you can read that verbally by looking at the Fed and the X. But now look at the pictures. What's in the orange section that talks about air flight? See it hidden in there? The arrow. See the arrow? Now show me in the purple, where are the 2 wheels and the axle from the tires, from the trucks? See the 2 wheels and the axle and the air? They tell their story not only with words but also with pictures. And so will you, because you're a story that's waiting to be told. So from now on, when you've got a problem and you have to have the old answer and only one answer, show me with your fingers, what's that look like? Exactly. That's information, and that's like in math. But if you've got to have a new idea to an old problem or a new solution to an old problem, show me with your fingers, what's that? Exactly. And that's not information, that's transformation. And the thing you want to remember is when you're doing this, the magic number is 1. One answer. When you're doing this, the magic number is 25. Look at it 25 different ways, and there's a 90% chance you're going to innovate. Nice to spend some time with you. I'm David Williamson, your visiting artist. Head off to homeroom.
Thanks, David.
You bet.
Pleasure.
Glad to have you with us.